From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Questions remain about what led up to a Border Patrol agent opening fire at the port of entry in Nogales last night.
Plus, the first reported hate crime of the year in Arizona happened last week in Mesa. We'll show you how a new tool put out by the Anti-Defamation League hopes to create more awareness.
And Senator Kyrsten Sinema shares plans to grow the state's economy while visiting a Valley Trade School.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Austin Bundy.
And I'm Sammy Giebers. Thank you for joining us. An encounter with Border Protection agents in Nogales last night ended in gunfire and with one man wounded.
The city's mayor first said the man died, but in a statement from Customs and Border Protection this afternoon, we've learned the man is still alive.
Cronkite News reporter Molly Bowes was in Nogales earlier this week and joins us now live with the very latest. Molly?
Thank you, Sammy. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, one of its officers tried to stop a vehicle crossing into Mexico. At some point during the encounter, the officer fired and hit the driver, who was taken to a hospital in Mexico. The mayor of Nogales says he was told the driver tried to run over an officer and the vehicle rolled into Mexico after the driver was shot. The officer was not hurt and the border crossing has reopened. Investigators are still on the scene to figure out what happened. Customs and Border Protection released a statement about the shooting, saying in part, quote, CBP's Office of Professional Responsibility and Homeland Security investigations are currently involved in the ongoing investigation. Further details will be provided as they become available, end quote. In the broadcast center, Molly Bowes, Cronkite News.
The Arizona Capitol building was under a lockdown this morning after a bomb threat. DPS officials say a suspect told officers he had a bomb in his bag when he encountered them in the Capitol Plaza. Officers arrested him and then determined there was no explosive. The area was locked down for about an hour before the all clear was given around noon. According to the latest numbers available from the FBI, reported incidents of hate crimes across the country were up 17%. But as John Cardinelli reports, a relatively new tool created by the Anti-Defamation League is tracking these types of hate crimes to see if there are patterns of concern.
These four posters on a pole across the street from Skyline High School make up Arizona's first reported hate crime of 2019.
We receive phone calls here from concerned citizens wanting us to know about these flyers because they displayed a swastika as well as using a religious symbol, in this case the Star of David, but not in a positive way.
It happened January 29th. Once the posters were discovered, Mesa police were contacted.
Officers got a call from the school principal that there were some questionable flyers out, not on the school property, but across the street from the school on the main street. It was like the corner of Crimson and Pueblo. When
officers arrived on scene, one of the first things they did was check nearby security cameras.
See if they could pick up anything, but so far they haven't.
And that is an issue when it comes to many hate crimes. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics and the FBI, only 4% of arrests were made related to violent hate crimes. That low number has pushed the Anti-Defamation League to create a heat map. It's the first time the ADL is using a tool like this, giving the public a chance to track the incidents of hate reported in their communities.
It includes documents, newspaper clippings, government documents, case reports, so it's pretty intensive and extensive.
We have John joining us now in the studio.
John, would you mind explaining and showing our viewers what this interactive tool does?
Of course, I'd love to. So as you can see, this is a map of the United States. And all around the map, you can see all sorts of dots. And what those dots represent right over here are hate incidents that have happened around the U.S. Now, if we take a closer look at Arizona, you can see that within the last year, there have been 59 total reported incidents. 33 of them being white supremacist type incidents and 26 anti-Semitic incidents. The hope is that this tool can raise awareness in communities so they can catch those committing these kinds of crimes. John Cardinelli, Cronkite News.
Former Attorney General Grant Woods announced today that he will not run for Senate in 2020. Woods was a Republican in the 1990s before switching to the Democratic Party as a strong critic of President Trump. Woods was a leading contender to challenge Republican Martha McSally. Other Democrats considering a run include Congressman Ruben Gallego and former astronaut Mark Kelly.
After calling out President Trump for comments he allegedly made about late Senator John McCain earlier this week, Meghan McCain is once again speaking out, this time slamming the president's family. The political commentator and co-host of The View appeared last night on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. She talked about first daughter Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared Kushner attending her dad's funeral last year, saying he did not want anyone in the Trump family there.
So I was surprised when they were there, and it made me uncomfortable. And I hope I made them uncomfortable, honestly, with everything.
Ivanka Trump appeared this morning on The View, but in an interview taped Thursday at the White House with McCain's co-host, Abby Huntsman.
As many as 20 veterans take their own life every day in the U.S., according to the latest Department of Veterans Affairs data. So Arizona officials are meeting with other states and federal agencies this week to brainstorm ways to deal with this problem. Cronkite News reporter Love Junius reports from our Washington bureau.
Arizona is known for the beauty of its vast open spaces, but those open spaces comes with a not so beautiful threat.
The western region of the United States, we have higher risk for veterans because we have a lot of rural areas in the west.
Wanda Wright said that's true in Arizona, where the suicide rate for veterans was more than twice the rate for the rest of the population, and more than 3 times the overall national rate, according to Veterans Administration data. Solving that problem is what brought Wright and other Arizona officials to Washington this week for the governor's challenge to prevent suicide among service members. One aim is just to make sure the support is there when needed.
Overall, the goals for Arizona are to really build the infrastructure within all of the various systems that we have across the state in all areas for all eras of service members, veterans, and their families to ensure that they have the right resource, service, or benefit at the right time.
Arizona was one of 7 states participating in the program, a joint effort of the Department of Health and Human Services and Veteran Affairs. Federal officials hope states like Arizona can take what they learned here and become models for other states.
The plan, we've got SAMHSA providing the technical assistance, which will help guide them throughout the remaining several years, where we'll work with them so they can get a functioning suicide prevention program together across Arizona.
Winkle says he wants vets in Arizona to feel like there's no wrong door for them to go for support. Wright just wants vets to know that help is there when they need it.
You hit the point where you're so sort of desperate and in despair, you know, sometimes their next logical thought is, I don't need to be here anymore. And we're trying to course correct for that through this initiative.
In Washington, Love Junius, Cronkite News.
The governor's challenge expands on a similar mayor's challenge last year that Phoenix took part in. The new challenge aims to find ways for states to implement a 10-year VA plan to prevent veteran suicides.
Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema visited the refrigeration school in Phoenix today as part of her Kyrsten Means Business program. Senator Sinema talked about her plan to grow Arizona's economy. She also sat down with business leaders to learn firsthand what problems they face and what could be improved. The refrigeration school provides hands-on training on heating, ventilation, and air conditioning.
Very lucky to visit this refrigeration school and learn about trades and ensuring that students get access to trade schools when appropriate.
New tonight, for 17 years, Arizona law denied bail in cases of sexual assault of a minor, but courts have now found that law unconstitutional. That's left the man behind the law grasping for answers, as Cronkite News reporter Alyssa Klink reports from our Washington bureau.
It was bad enough that Chris Cottrell's siblings were sexually abused when they were children.
I can't fully imagine the host of emotional pain and things that happen as a result of sexual assault.
But it was worse when the man accused of that abuse was released on bail days after his arrest and showed up for services at the Cottrell's church.
I remember the pain that they felt sitting there and the uncomfortableness that they felt and how my sisters felt about seeing him over there. And I didn't want anybody else to go through that.
Cottrell's solution was to deny bail for those accused of sexual assault of a minor. His idea eventually became Proposition 103, also known as Chris's Law. It was approved overwhelmingly by voters in 2002. It was the law in Arizona until last year when a divided Arizona Supreme Court ruled 4-3 that it was unconstitutional.
Courts can be wrong, and I think in this case the court is wrong. I think it's unfortunate that 4 unelected judges decided to overturn what 80% of the Arizona population wanted.
But civil rights attorney Charles Gerstein said the court did the right thing by ruling that Chris's Law violates defendants' due process rights.
The Arizona Supreme Court found the law unconstitutional because it authorized the detention of people pre-trial without a specific finding as to their dangerousness and without the procedures that the due process requires for such a finding.
For Cottrell, making sure assailants stay off the streets is common sense.
I think the victims would have to feel better knowing that the person that did this to them was behind bars.
Gerstein can understand the emotion, but says rights of the accused still matter.
The people who should be jailed should have their rights respected.
The U.S. Supreme Court last month refused to hear an appeal of the Arizona case, the last chance to save the law.
It breaks my heart to know that in an age where we're finally recognizing sexual assault for the important issue it is, the courts decided to let people with clear evidence against them go out on bail and be a threat to the community.
In Washington, Alyssa Klink, Cronkite News.
It has been another chilly day here in the valley, huh?
Bain Froney is tracking our weekend weather forecast. Bain, is it ever going to warm up?
Thanks, guys. Yes, it is definitely going to be warming up this week. This morning we were at the 30-degree weather, and now we're at 67. That is our high for the day. And then tonight we're going to be seeing temperatures drop back down to 46 as our low at 10 p.m. We're also going to be seeing a little bit of cloud coverage as well. During the next day, that 44 degrees is going to stay kind of chilly in the morning, so definitely bring a jacket if you're going out for a morning hike. But then we're going to be seeing 65-degree temperatures around 4 p.m. as our high. We're going to be seeing some clouds coming in and a little bit of rain from the west coast around Saturday and Sunday. So be sure to be ready for that temperature change. With that, this weekend, we're going to be seeing a little bit more sunshine on Saturday and Monday. But then we're going to be seeing more cloud coverage as the week continues.
Thanks, Bain. You know, ever pick up a bad bag of apples at the grocery store? Well, there may be a solution to that, and it was developed by a school competing at ASU's Innovation Open. As Madeline Haller reports, the winner gets a $100,000 prize.
5 schools from across the country converged on ASU's Tempe campus to compete in the 3rd annual Innovation Open. The Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering host the competition to give collegiate entrepreneurs the chance to solve real-world issues.
Technology startups across the nation are developing on college campuses just like this one. One Northeastern startup has already touched over 4 million apples.
Catherine Sizov, an undergraduate in molecular biology at the University of Pennsylvania, beat out the other 4 startups, winning $100,000 from tech giant Avnet. She says her venture's technology hacks fruit. Research behind the startup says $1.2 billion is lost in the produce market every year.
We make biosensing platforms to optimize the food supply chain. So we reduce food spoilage in apple packing and distribution houses and can be used for other fruits as well.
Strela Biotechnology created sensors to predict the maturity of fresh fruit supplies, starting with apples, in an effort to improve today's produce margin. Melissa Gray of Avnet says Sizov captured her attention as she posed a solution to combating against greenhouse gases and food waste issues.
Today's access to technology, we've democratized it. If you want to design, engineer, manufacture, you can now do it as a startup. 15 years ago, you couldn't do that.
For collegiate entrepreneurs, Sizov encourages students to start asking questions to solve real-world problems, like she was able to.
I think it's great. You're paying a ton of money to go to college, so why not get some of it back through pitch competitions or other events, or even just utilizing a network of mentors that you have at hand.
Sizov's team beat out others from University of California, San Diego, MIT, McGill University, and Brown University. In Tempe, Madeline Haller, Cronkite News.
They're already planning for next year's Innovation Open. Semifinals are slated to be in early December and finals in early February. That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
And stick around. After the break, a look back at this week's top stories on Cronkite News.
Coming up, we all love ADOT's catchy digital safety signs hanging above our highways. And now, we get to meet the man behind them.
Plus, the social media influencer phenomenon is in full force. Find out how Hispanic influencers are using their platforms to bring in the big bucks.
And illegal tours are popping up on social media sites targeting a popular Arizona tourist destination. We'll tell you which one after the break.
Join us each week on Catalyst, the show that explores new advancements, technologies, and innovations at Arizona State University that are shaping the future for tomorrow and beyond. Catalyst, Wednesdays at 9, right here on Arizona PBS.
We've all seen them, the catchy phrases about driver safety on the digital boards above the highway.
Reporter Gabriela Bacara tells us the real message ADOT wants drivers to take away from the clever road reminders.
A sign could simply read, "Don't drink and drive." But is that going to resonate with a driver going 65 miles per hour on I-10? ADOT's Doug Pacey thinks up catchy signs to catch attention, and always with the message of safe driving in mind.
So if they see the message, maybe it sticks with them a little bit longer.
Not only does ADOT want to get the message of safe driving across,
These are things like wear your seatbelt, don't drive drunk, don't text and drive. These are things that anyone who's taken driver's ed or who's got a driver's license knows they shouldn't do. But these are also the leading factors in crash fatalities. So everyone needs a reminder in that.
but it also wants the message to remain with drivers long after they pass the signs.
We look for opportunities to tie these unconventional safety messages to things that are going to be front of mind for people and drivers.
To keep these messages front of mind, Pacey says he keeps a calendar of opportunities and events, such as holidays, concerts, or plays that drivers might be attending. His personal favorite is when Hamilton came to Gamage. The signs read, "Tell the story of tonight, designate a driver. Talk less, drive more. History has its eyes on you, slow down. And why do you drive like you're running out of time?"
I like the Hamilton one because Lin-Manuel Miranda actually noticed it and retweeted it and put it on his Facebook page.
Oftentimes, these signs go viral, although Pacey recommends drivers don't take pictures and post the signs while driving.
Drivers don't have to take pictures of them. They can come to our social media accounts. They can steal ours. We don't care.
If you think you have a good idea for one of these signs, you can reach out to ADOT, and if they like it, it will be featured on one of the signs. In the Broadcast Center, Gabriela Becerra, Cronkite News.
The social media phenomenon right now is huge, and I spoke to two people here locally that are just killing it online.
Hola a todos.
Hello everyone.
Hola. Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We all use them, but Latinos are logging in and reaching for their phones more than other ethnic groups. And Hispanics aren't only big social media users, they're also using it to make big money. With over 5 million followers across all social platforms, Julian Camarena uses his presence online, sharing his music, and is known as an influencer, someone who has a large following and, in some cases, turns that following into a profitable business.
From the music to working with these brands to endorsements, all that stuff helps a lot.
But Camarena says the connection to his fans' social media offers is something money just can't buy.
It's nice to be able to interact with them. It's nice to kind of get instant feedback with them, which now you can get with social media.
Whether it's double tapping on Instagram or scrolling through Twitter, one of the many reasons that Latinos are on their computers or on their cell phones is to be able to connect with their family members that might live in different countries.
We're also finding that they're using Facebook or WhatsApp, whether it's contacting their family members, sharing pictures of their babies.
Hola, mujerón. For this up-and-coming social media influencer, connecting with her family in Mexico is just another reason why she shares so much of her life online.
Hispanics are very united, so social media has been a tool for us to continue to be united even if we're far.
According to the Nielsen Company, 52% of U.S. Hispanics 18 and over spend 1 hour
hour or more every day on social media sites, in comparison to 38% of non-Hispanic whites. Those higher engagement numbers potentially mean higher revenue for Latin social media influencers. We plugged Camarena's Instagram stats into an online estimating tool and found for every post,
He may charge $2,600 to $4,000, just depending on the price.
For Alejandra Saunders, the purpose of her Mujerón movement is to empower Latinas through social media.
My brand is more about empowerment and not necessarily showing skin. I really always think about what will my mom or my sister think about my post.
According to Nielsen, in the year 2060, people under 35 are going to be 30% Hispanic.
Your air travel last year is partly to blame for a spike in carbon dioxide levels in the U.S. Reporter Lillian Donahue is joining us now with more on how emissions from jet fuel, trucks, and cars all contributed to this increase. Lillian?
It's a chain effect. The New York-based research group Rhodium says a higher demand for trucking and air travel last year increased carbon dioxide emissions across the country. I visited a local lab where scientists are trying to fix the problem.
Alan Wright directs Arizona State University's Center for Negative Carbon Emissions, where they are developing a sort of CO2 sponge.
It has dried and given off water vapor, and as it gives off water, it soaks up CO2.
Wright says his research could one day help counter the invisible danger of rising carbon dioxide in the air.
Most of the scientific community believe now that removing the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is going to be a necessary component of the strategies that we will use to deal with this rising CO2 level in the environment.
Preliminary data released by the New York-based research group Rhodium shows that national CO2 emissions increased by 3.4% in 2018. It's the second largest annual gain in more than 2 decades. Transportation remained the largest source of CO2 emissions in the U.S. for the 3rd year in a row. Jet and diesel fuel make up the majority, although Wright says everyday vehicles still have an impact.
This is a bag of sand that has a pound of sand in it. If a car gets 20 miles to the gallon, that's the weight of the carbon dioxide that you put in the air every single mile you drive.
There are more vehicles hitting the roadways each year. According to the Arizona Department of Transportation, vehicle registration has gone up from 7.9 million to 8.5 in just 2 years.
But Maricopa County officials say those cars and trucks contribute to an even larger problem: high ozone levels. This forms when volatile organic compounds found in emissions mix with intense sunlight.
Well, here in Arizona, we have CO2, but the levels are extremely low. The automobiles, businesses, they contribute to the ozone. That's the biggest concern here.
Hune says the county is working to lower emission levels by monitoring ozone and urging commuters to carpool. However, Wright says that although carbon dioxide levels remain consistently low locally, it's a national concern that will eventually affect everyone.
We as a people, as a responsible social organism, have a responsibility to take care of the garbage that we put into the environment as a result of our day-to-day living.
The Rhodium Group notes they don't expect to see a comparable uptick in carbon dioxide levels this year. That's because they expect an economic slowdown and continued closures of coal-powered energy plants across the country. In the broadcast center, Lillian Donahue, Cronkite News.
Leading hikers without a permit is illegal, and the U.S. Forest Service says Sedona is especially susceptible to these types of tours. Unpermitted guides go off-trail, damage fragile ecosystems, and disrupt archaeological sites. Sammy Giebers traveled up to the Coconino National Forest to find out more about the impact these groups have on the land.
You guys gonna do a Jeep ride today?
Already did it.
Got some fun coupons.
If you're walking around uptown Sedona, it's not going to take you long to find a tour company. You can also look on Facebook, but the ones there aren't always permitted.
They may not even know that what they're doing is illegal.
It's a problem throughout the U.S. Forest Service, but especially in Sedona, where there's an influx of tourists and miles of wilderness. Unpermitted guides are leading tours of people through the area.
Sedona is completely surrounded by the Coconino National Forest. And that makes it relatively easier to get a group together, go to a trailhead parking lot, and boom, you're right on the National Forest.
Goshorn says that they're seeing more and more Facebook posts from people not on their permit list. One reason, It can take years before you finally lead a group of people through Sedona legally.
It's been a long process. I mean, if I go back, it would be some 12 or so years ago that we really started.
The Forest Service doesn't just let anyone have a permit.
With all of our guides, we have some very strict requirements.
Making sure equipment is safe, guides are medically certified and properly trained are just some of the requirements.
Courthouse, Bell Rock.
Permitted businesses also pay fees that support the Forest Service. Unpermitted guides don't do that.
We've been given the stewardship of this area, and so to inform people, the right way, leave no trace and leave no impact. This is cool.
Craig Crawford and his business partner Kwahua take extra precaution to make sure they're preserving the land.
Like this area right here is a little off trail, so you kind of want to, find the main trail. We're the facilitators for people that want to, experience the area and in a safe way. That's always been our goal, is to make sure people can explore, with safety and certainty that they're going to come back.
In Sedona, Sammy Giebers, Cronkite News.
The Forest Service says if you do find yourself in an unpermitted tour without knowing it, you won't get fined. But beware, your guide might not have the proper training if there's an emergency. The best thing you can do is just ask to see their permit. Another tourist attraction getting some attention, the Grand Canyon.
If the Grand Canyon extended the tourist season at the North Rim by just 4 weeks, it could boost its economy by $14 million. That's according to a new study that says a longer tourist season would bring nearly 38,000 visitors to the area and would support almost 200 jobs. However, the study does not factor in the cost to the national park or maintenance to the highway that leads to the North Rim. Advocates for a longer tourist season have been pushing for an extra 2 weeks in both October and May. Currently, the North Rim is fully open less than half the year.